Well, hello there, everyone. I wanted to read you some excerpts from a letter by Friedrich Hölderlin to his mother from October 1798, which is a striking letter because he had just left Frankfurt and he had left his position as a private tutor to one of the well-to-do families in Frankfurt, and he's just joined his friend Sinclair in Homburg in Saarland, and he relates to his mother, importantly, how much money he's been able to save, about 500 gulden. By the way, there's a longer form, a live stream on here on my channel on the money of the poets, which looks at Goethe and a few other people, and Schopenhauer and Schiller and Fichte, and basically everyone who was anyone at the time of the Goethe time, and also their financial situation. So Hölderlin here describes, first of all, that he's been able to save up this amount of money, which should allow him to live comfortably for 1 year, so long as he's away from Frankfurt, because apparently his mother was worried about him leaving Frankfurt. But the point I actually want to get, and he praises his friend Sinclair. Sinclair is also the man whom he honors and dedicates the Rhine to, by the way. But what I want to focus on is that Hölderlin here speaks really of his love for the children that he taught, and that it was difficult for him to leave Frankfurt precisely because he felt such great affection for the children. What you can see in the letter is that he adored the children and that he was deeply affected by having to leave them because he cared so much for them. But there's something crucial that he addresses, which I want to get to now, which is the issue of Bildung, of all higher genuine formation. There's a longer video on here on Humboldt, on Bildung as well, on the ideal of Bildung. What we mean by Bildung is something different from just mere education and certainly also just training. I would argue that higher institutions of learning today no longer are places of Bildung, which is open at the same time while also fulfilling a certain form, which so there's a constitutive moment that needs to be in place as well. So there needs to be a telos that's clear, but at the same time, there's no end state of Bildung. There's no, because you can't be you cannot be produced, as it were. You can't produce yourself as a gebildete, as a fully formed human being. So in that sense, it remains open, but the telos, of course, is to come in touch with genuine knowledge, truth, and the beautiful. So what Hölderlin here points out is that there's an impolite pride, that's an unhöflicher Stolz, which he was confronted with on a daily basis, so that all Bildung was assumed, was understood simply as a service. So, and that the Hofmeister, the private tutors, let's say, were really just seen as employees as well, employees of the household, who, just like perhaps the family chef or the cleaning personnel, are also just hired to do a certain job. And that hurt Hölderlin, and rightly so, because it doesn't just hurt him personally. What it does is it sees the diminish, it betrays the degradation of Bildung by those who supposedly want to favor Bildung and want to further Bildung, all higher formation for the sake of itself. And it's crucial that, again, money comes in. So obviously, Hölderlin has to earn a living, and he has to be paid for his employment, to use that term. But it isn't a service. So it isn't as though you pay for, let's say, a, a 90-minute session and you need to get this, that, and the other out of it. You need to have certain learning outcomes, let's say, that are predetermined that you can get out of your session with your private tutor. Instead, what the stipend or the honorarium, to use these old terms, should actually provide the teacher with is a leisurely existence that allows the private tutor to spend his or her days reading, writing, and also engaging in this open formation that is Bildung according to the telos of finding truth, finding beauty, and trying to articulate what one finds. And the stipend and the honorarium allows for that freedom, but is not tied in a utilitarian fashion, let's say, to, or is not transactional, to put it simply. And this is what he could see is is already happening, was happening at the time in Frankfurt, and also apparently with the family that he was in the employ of. So he tried to be patient, but he did see that it is no longer possible, also because there seems to have been tumultuous times or economically difficult times for some of the families, and perhaps also for his own. I'm not aware of that, but so he mentions that this might be the reason why. But the salient point here really is that in the arena of Bildung, we cannot ask, or let's say with a teacher, etc., also with a university, then of course, or with a private academy, one must refrain from thinking of what is offered as a service, first of all, and as a part of a sort of a transactional service. Because once you start doing this, then it's no longer Bildung. It cannot be constitutive. It cannot be leading to. It's not the open, continuous self-formation. Instead, what then this is reduced to is a product, a service that guarantees a certain outcome. So the idea, I mean, if for example, there's a resurgence, let's say, of private tutors, etc., which should never be transactional, and we have to keep this in mind, especially universities, whether they are free or not free, whether they charge tuition fee or not. What students want to get out of their time at university is the degree. That's the outcome. So the service that the university has to provide is that students are, at the end, placed there as employable persons, let's say. But in that regard, and the professor has to provide concepts that can be regurgitated, etc., if we're just talking about philosophy, for example, and is in a certain demand to produce knowledge, or to produce or to regurgitate, let's say, certain texts in such a manner that students can also regurgitate the most important, the key points, the key insights, etc. And all of this is not genuine Bildung, is to the detriment of Bildung, and turns the entire enterprise into a transaction, a transactional mode, I would say. So thank you very much for listening. There's plenty of videos on this channel on Bildung and also on Hölderlin, and also on the money of the poets if you're interested, and those connections. And yeah, if you're interested to take your study of philosophy further, I'd be ever so grateful if you choose the Halcyon Academy for your endeavors. So go to the Halcyon website and take a look at our courses, and perhaps something piques your interest. And for example, the course on German idealism, which also includes a lecture on Hölderlin. And the courses are, especially in the self-study mode, are intended and are structured in such a way that they guide you through difficult texts, and but also invite you to think, to learn how to think, to learn thinking on your own. Thank you very much.